On one level, this should be the easiest homily to give in the year, this great feast of the most holy body and blood of Christ. It is so complexly simple and profound that I find it somewhat difficult to speak to it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to focus first on this gospel because it's Eucharistic in the sense that people were fed like the Eucharist feeds us and takes care of our hungers. But in this particular scene, and it's in all four Gospels in different ways, it says that Jesus was preaching and people were coming at him from every direction to be healed. And he spent the whole day pouring himself out into healing and teaching all the people. And so the disciples get concerned because they say, it's getting late and they're going to be hungry. You should send them out, send them to nearby towns to get provisions and get lodging if they need it. So Jesus says the most incredible thing. It sounds almost silly, ridiculous. Well, why don't you feed them? And they said, what? They noted, as the gospel notes, there were over 5,000 men, so I'm presuming 5,000 women more or less, and 5,000 children at least, more or less, I'm assuming. But they said, well, we only have 5 loaves and 2 fish. What are we supposed to do? Go out and buy more food for everybody? And so he says, have them sit down, groups of 50. You heard the story, and they do. And then he takes the 5 loaves and 2 fish and blesses them as he looks up to heaven. And then there's enough food for every single person to be well fed, have more than enough, plus have 12 wicker baskets. 12, there's a magical number. 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles, very foundational language. And so that's what happens. Now, let's for a moment step back. You know how I like to ask the question about literalness. Did this literally happen? I don't know. All 4 Gospels said it did. But if it did, exactly as it's written here, wouldn't everybody become a believer? I mean, really, if there were 5 loaves and 2 fish and then over 5 or 10 or 15,000, however you read this, had enough food, plus there were leftovers. Leftovers, for God's sake. On one level, you know how people are so chismoso, huh? They're going to immediately, did you see what he did? Oh my God, all this leftover food, and he just did a blessing. I mean, I don't see how everyone would not or could not be converted by that. But it doesn't happen, at least to my knowledge. And this story would have gone on forever. 2,000 years later, we're telling the story again. So it's rather extraordinary. I don't speak or read the original languages in which these scriptures are written. I'm reading the English translation. But I read a commentator who said what may have happened is women, who always are prepared, came with food tucked under in their bags and purses and whatever, bread and maybe some dried fish, whatever, to feed their families. And I think it's Barclay who wrote this. But there was a young theologian who taught in the seminary who said, you absolutely cannot say this is what happened. It's literal. That's the language. It makes it very literal. But Barclay said, what if after Jesus' preaching and healing and pouring out his love over all these people, they were so touched that when the hunger, not just for healing and for truth, but the hunger for some physical food, to satisfy that hunger so they could get home without collapsing on the way, that all these women took out the food in their bags and purses and began to distribute it to everyone, to share it. Now that, to me, would be a miracle, because I think that very often people can be very selfish. They can hoard for themselves. But if everybody there was moved to share and to take care of the needs and hungers of one another, wow, that would be a miracle indeed. So whatever the case, it's hard to say, but here's the story. And it's very Eucharistic in character because it's talking about these hungers. And the liturgy, after the council, we began to speak of it in these terms, the liturgy of the Word and the liturgy of the Eucharist. We come first to be fed by the Word, nourished, to get nutrition, spiritual life from the Word of God. And then after we finish with that, we take our spirit over there to the table where we are nourished by the liturgy of the Eucharist. And by the way, one of the few Greek words I know is Eucharistine, which is what the word Eucharist comes from, Eucharistine. And this word means thanksgiving. And so through this celebration of the Word and the Eucharist, we are the people of God, a Eucharistic people. And the introduction always says we welcome this faith community of St. Bernard's. We are a faith community rooted in the Word of God and the Eucharist, which nourishes all of our hungers. Now, if we go to the second reading, Paul is reminding them and remembering with them the first Eucharist, we call it, Holy Thursday night. And it's what makes this such a profoundly complex and mysterious celebration, the body and blood of Christ, is that Jesus uses the most unextraordinary stuff to provide Eucharist, become our Eucharist. He takes bread and wine that they use at every meal. If this were in Mexico, he'd use a taco, I think. And if it were here in the United States, we'd have a cheeseburger. He'd break open the cheeseburger and pass it around and say, "This is my body," whatever. But he took bread and wine. Now, it was an extraordinary feast. He was celebrating the Passover. But after the meal, at the end of the meal, he did this thing that was so simple but so extraordinary. He took bread. They had it at every meal, broke the bread, and he gave it to them, but he said this, "This is my body. Eat it." Then he took a cup of wine. They all drank all the time, and they had their wine at every meal. And he said, "This is my blood. Drink it." And what he was saying through this symbolic language and through this celebration, he was saying, "I want to be your food. I want to reach down into your spirit and your soul and feed you like you've never been fed, give you more than you can even take, and there will be leftovers. I want to give to your spirit my life, my spirit, so that anything you have to face in life, you will be well fed, well taken care of, and you can face it." Now, I think that's extraordinary language, and I think it's an extraordinary experience. And what if we as a people were so well fed by the presence of Christ in the Word and Eucharist that we were determined to change the world? You know, bombs were sent over Iran yesterday. Saw it on the news this morning. War has begun. We're officially at war. Who knows where it's going? And we're so good at it. We love wars. We love fighting. We love payback. We love vengeance. I mean, let's face it, we do. I don't know if it's the biggest profession in the world, but I suspect it is. And if there's any here, please don't get mad at me. Lawyers. We love lawyers. Get them back. Get them back. Have you noticed all the signs here in this area about lawyers? They're all over the place for every possible thing that can go wrong. Get a lawyer and get them back. Pay them back. And we love to build prisons and stuff people into them. We just can't wait to get the revenge. Or call it justice? I don't know. But we're good at that. Are we as good at making peace? Why aren't there peace councils in every single city that draw people together to reflect upon and make plans to build peace more into their community? And wouldn't one of the things that we discover is that there are people that are hungry not only for truth and for love, but for literally for food. There are nations, particularly in Africa, where thousands, if not millions, go hungry for days at a time. Why wouldn't we see that the justice of God in this world is not happening? We are not being just if we let children die from hunger. There ought to be something so startling in us that every single household says, what can we do? What can we do to help get rid of this hunger, the injustice of hunger and starvation, to see that every single person has enough to eat. I don't get it, except I think we're not yet transformed. That original sin still sits in us, and we bombed another country, and maybe we'll get retaliatory bombing of our own country. Who knows? Who knows? But today, this feast touches all of that. Jesus says, let me into your life. Let me into your heart. And we celebrate that through signs and wonders, where we listen to the Word and speak about the Word, where we eat the Eucharist, and we eat and drink, we did before the pandemic, the very presence of Christ, so that we are so nourished at such a deep level that we are transformed and we have the power to transform the world. That's what I think this feast is about. And it's so simple, but so profound and mysterious that, we just keep repeating. We want to eat and drink the Lord into our life so we are well fed. Well, today we have the beauty of welcoming this little girl. She has no clue what's about to happen. And if she's asleep now, is she? Oh my God, she's going to be awakened with water all over her head, and she ain't going to be a happy camper, I don't think. But